What's up? What's up, y'all? Y'all got some pain? Y'all want some of these opioids? Yeah, I bet you do. You druggies. Unfortunately, these are prenatals. One a day. From my wife. And I hope she finds them. But what I wanted to talk to y'all about is this opioid crisis that the FDA has just decided, we can let it get a little bit worse. Despite warnings, FDA approves potent new opioid painkiller. How? How are we approving any new opioid painkiller when we clearly are in the middle of an opioid crisis? A drug crisis the likes of which suburban America has never seen before. And really all of America, but it became a national crisis emergency because many a suburban mother and father, just non-urban people can't seem to cope with their drug addictions. If it's inner city, we don't really care for some reason. But now that it's affecting those in the suburbs, it's a crisis. It's not a war on drugs anymore. It's a national emergency. And the FDA is just adding fuel to the fire because, hey, why not, right? It's a $1 billion industry. The drug we're talking about is Dsuvia by Acelrx or whatever. And they can make $1 billion, what, in a year? By using this drug. It's a simple, small drug. According to this article, it's a 3 millimeter wide tablet. It's about 3 micrograms, I believe, of sufentanil. You put it under your tongue and the pain just magically washes away. You're whisked away to a magical fairyland. And then you're stuck because when you're taken off of it, you'll still be put on some lesser opioid type drug. And then you'll be a pawn to the drug industry and to the medical industry. And that's just the world that we seem to live in. So let's dive a little bit more into this. I got to read a little bit more. So the Food and Drug Administration has approved a new opioid painkiller despite warnings from physician critics who say the drug will contribute to the addiction epidemic. Dsuvia is a 3 millimeter wide tablet of sufentanil made by Acelrx. It came before an FDA advisory committee back on October 12th. Such committees weigh in on the safety and efficacy of proposed products, and the FDA generally follows committee guidance in its decision about drugs. The FDA's Anesthetic and Analgesic Drug Products Advisory Committee voted 10-3 to recommend approval for the medication, and the agency approved the drug today. And a quote, they said, there are very tight restrictions being placed on the distribution and use of this product. And that was from the FDA Commissioner Scott Gottlieb in a written statement regarding the approval of Dsuvia. I like the name Dsuvia. No, I don't. We've learned much from the harmful impact that other oral opioid products can have in the context of the opioid crisis. So it's good that they actually took into account that there is an opioid crisis. I just thought they just completely didn't care about it. We've applied these hard lessons as part of the steps we're taking to address safety concerns for Dsuvia. However, here go the critics. They say, which includes the FDA Advisory Committee and the consumer advocacy group Public Citizen, had urged the FDA to reject Dsuvia. And approving the drug, the agency skirted its normal vetting process. And I'm not really sure of the normal vetting process, but I wonder, why did you decide to just completely skirt it? Skirt, right? These critics say Dsuvia is an unnecessary opioid, they say, and its size and potency will appeal to people looking to sell or misuse it. Now, there are people that say that it cannot be sold or misused, mainly the co-founder of the company Acelrx. But they said, we have worked diligently, very diligently, over the last 3 or 4 years to try to improve the public health, to reduce the number of potent opioids on the street, says Dr. Rayford Brown, an anesthesiologist at the University of Kentucky. Brown chairs the FDA committee that, despite his disagreement, voted for Dsuvia's approval. I don't think this is going to help us in any way, he says. So Dr. Rayford Brown says that they've tried to improve the public health and reduce the number of potent opioids, and the FDA's approval just does not help that fight at all. And then Dr. Pamela Palmer, who is an anesthesiologist herself and is the co-founder of Acelrx, which is the company that came up with this Dsuvia drug, argues that the risk of diversion, and diversion is when drugs end up with people who are not the intended patients, like basically black market drugs, is low with Dsuvia because it will not be dispensed to patients at pharmacies. Are any opioids dispensed to patients at pharmacies? Do we need to take a trip to the Rite Aid and see if that's actually true? Instead, healthcare providers will only be able to use it in medical centers. So I guess in this case, when it says in pharmacies, you usually get a prescription from your doctor. They would say, hey, take all these colorful little opioids. They'll make you feel good. You go to CVS and Rite Aid, you get them, and then bam, they're in your house and anyone has access to them. They're saying that Dr. Pamela Palmer is saying that you can only get this if you go to a hospital, if you're actually, in pain, and intense pain, and you need it right away, post haste. So she's saying, yes, low with Dsuvia because it will not be dispensed to patients at pharmacies. Instead, healthcare providers will only be able to use it in medical centers, she says, arguing that few people misuse drugs from those settings. Sure, and that's good and all, but the problem here is you're giving people this super potent opioid. And my guess is they're probably going to take it maybe once, maybe twice, maybe 3 times, depending on the pain. And that is going to create in their body a need, a desire for the same level of pain. I mean, we know about this. We know that once you start taking a drug, typically you want more of it. You got to get a bigger high or whatever. And so that's part of the issue with opioids now. Once you pop, you just can't stop. It's like Pringles. It's like Pringles. And so what's going to happen when you try to take them off of Dsuvia is you're going to have to step them down and step them down. And that's the hardest part for people. It's an expensive part for people. But the drug industry loves this because that means that now they can sell you those drugs on your way out and hope that you get hooked and that you still need them. Or hope that your pain stays around long enough so that they can just keep you as part of their little game, their little plan. And it's crazy. It will not contribute to the large outpatient opioid crisis, Palmer maintains. While sufentanil is potent, the dose in Dsuvia is pre-measured in small, 30 micrograms, as I said before, or millionths of a gram. And it's amazing that something that small can just cure you of your pain. Not cure your pain, but obviously block the pain receptors in your body from getting to your brain and telling you that you're in pain. But you are still in pain. Your arm could literally be cut off. You're just not, your brain has just literally been shut off from feeling it. So basically they're saying, Palmer says that the product fills a unique need. Healthcare providers put it under patients' tongues, as I said, rather than injecting it or giving them a pill to swallow. So it's pretty easy. Just put it, it's like a Tic Tac, just a millionth of a size of a Tic Tac, I'm guessing. And if you take a pill or you're injecting it, it can take too long to offer relief. She says, if you want to get on top of someone's pain quickly, you have to come up with a different route than swallowing a pill. She envisions providers use the tablet when finding, or they can use it when finding a vein is difficult and time sensitive, in emergency room patients who are morbidly obese, for instance. And of course, the dollars and cents, this is why the FDA, I believe, approved it. The company projects $1.1 billion annual sales. So I can just imagine when you get the bill, if they say we need to give this person some Dsuvia, we need to give her a dose of Dsuvia, I can just imagine how much this little pill is going to cost. Billions and billions and billions and billions. It's going to be expensive. I don't want to see that medical bill. And so they hope to have the product in hospitals early next year. This is crazy. Palmer also says the Department of Defense helped fund the company's research because Dsuvia could potentially be used on the battlefield instead of morphine. So how cool is that? This drug is actually going to be offered to our men and women fighting abroad who already have enough issues with PTSD. Let's go and give them a drug so now that it'll be harder for them to fight addiction on top of their PTSD, on top of everything else that happens when you go and you're fighting overseas and you're just like, are we blind? I feel like this is Rogue One, and I feel like what was the guy's name who was in charge of the building of the Death Star? Are we blind? Are we blind? Krennic, Orson Krennic. Are we blind to what is happening? Amazing. Can someone sue the FDA? I feel like we need to take this to the Supreme Court or something, because this just seems like this is not just throwing, oil on a fire. This is just taking the sun and throwing it on a fire. This is like throwing nuclear waste onto a fire. This is amazing. Dr. Sidney Wolf, senior advisor to Public Citizens Health Research Group, dismisses Palmer's claim that Dsuvia meets a crucial need. Along with Brown, the group sent a letter to the FDA expressing concerns about the drug. It's not unique at all, Wolf says, adding that the drug wasn't adequately tested in emergency settings, and I don't know how it really could be. I mean, who are they going to test it on? Are they testing it on mice? And that in tests, pain relief with Dsuvia was slow. In two of the company's studies, Dsuvia patients only felt meaningful pain at 54 minutes and 78 minutes. So they did test it on human beings, and they said Dsuvia patients only felt meaningful pain relief. We may find a niche for Dsuvia, but it's not like we need it. And for sure, at some level, it's going to be diverted, says Dr. Palmer McKee, assistant professor at Indiana University School of Medicine and director of the Ashkenazi Health Integrative Pain Program in Indianapolis. Do we really want an opportunity to divert another medicine? And the answer to that, quite plainly, is no. So Dr. Palmer, whatever, the first Palmer, Palmer Pamela, she's obviously, she created this drug, or at least the company that she co-founded created this drug. So obviously she's out for the money. I'm not sure how this got by the FDA, but I can only assume that there's probably some third party, who has fleeced the pocketbooks of those folks that approved it on the FDA, the 10 folks that approved it to get this drug through. Because I see nothing in this story that gives me a good and fuzzy feeling that this drug should have been approved. So this article goes on to say, though the advisory committee ultimately voted in favor of the drug, Public Citizen contends the FDA sought to tilt the vote's outcome toward approval. Brown, the committee chief, who has been outspoken against certain opioids in the past, says he was unable to attend the advisory committee meeting on October 12th because of a scheduling conflict that he had informed the FDA about months in advance. Brown says the FDA decided to hold the meeting anyway without him. Not that it would have mattered, because it's still 10-3. I have strong feelings about the opioid crisis as someone who lives in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, where we continue to have people die, Brown says. My forthright nature may have played a role in their decision about how the agency was going to manage this advisory committee. The October meeting also left out most members of another FDA committee, the Drug Safety and Risk Management Advisory Committee, who are often included in regulatory discussions of new opioid drugs. Like, this needs to be... I'm sorry, you guys need to share this video. This just shouldn't be happening. Honestly, how do you not include an entire committee, a whole ass committee that's called Drug Safety and Risk Management Advisory Committee? Like, they should be the people that are making the decision on this. And it says they are often included in regulatory discussions of new opioid drugs. Public Citizen says members of that committee were not even invited to attend. In an email, an FDA spokesman wrote that Drug Safety Committee members could not attend due to scheduling conflicts. Then don't approve the freaking pill. Hello? Brown says that's not the full story. On Wednesday, ahead of the FDA's final decision, 4 U.S. senators, Ed Markey, Claire McCaskill, Joe Manchin, and Richard Blumenthal, sent a letter to Gottlieb, the FDA's commissioner, echoing concerns from Brown and Public Citizen and asking the agency to deny approval to Dsuvia until Brown and the full Drug Safety Committee were allowed to participate. So, mad props to Ed Markey, Claire McCaskill, Joe Manchin, and Richard Blumenthal. I would like for everyone to reach out to their senators or their new senators to get back with the FDA and revoke the approval of this immediately. Because ultimately the FDA approved the drug anyway. But again, we have, I'm guessing, until early next year to get the FDA to reverse the decision, or for someone to somehow put some sort of hold on this. There should never again be a meeting on opioids that doesn't include drug safety, says Wolf. The FDA really screwed up, and I would have to agree. But I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Did the FDA screw up? Should we approve Dsuvia? Should it be used? Could it be misused? Will it be diverted? Is it right to put this in the battlefields to replace morphine? What are your thoughts? I would love to know. And I will see you all tomorrow. Peace out.